Once again, we're back. The official Ben Moore interview, GSU Sports, on the topic. And Ben, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Let's just hop right into it. First things first, it's a big week for Georgia State. The Georgia State President Mark Beck and ODU President John Broderick, there was a vote via the CAA to allow them to play in the CAA tournament. There was a recent article on the AJC talking about the decision has been decided. Ben, you're in the know. What do you think is going to happen?
It's a really good question, and honestly, I'll go two parts. So certainly, Mark Becker and John Broderick were, asked to lead portions of the meeting there in Washington D.C. And we really don't have an insight. There's no kind of leaning. The more people that I talk to, the more think that it's a positive thing that something hasn't been announced. And that comes from all around the conference. I talked to some folks up in Richmond yesterday, and they said, hey, you know what, we for some reason think you guys may have a shot. Certainly, Old Dominion being a local team there, it would bring a lot of folks to the CAA tournament. And that's really what conference tournaments are really all about, is making money for the city that they're in. They're very similar to bowl games as it relates to college football. So the college football fans know all about bowl games, the impact financially on their cities. So to really strip it down, and already missing VCU, which is kind of the de facto home team the last several years, to the Richmond Coliseum there. Then now you take another big fan base away in Old Dominion. It does make it difficult, and it makes it difficult certainly for the school president to make money off of this. And just those fan bases, as well as Georgia State as well, obviously, which is we're sort of we focus on, but you'll also have UNCW, Wilmington, and Towson, who are ineligible already due to NPR issues with the NCAA with their academic progress report. So to really have a conference tournament with 7 teams not only hurts the conference financially, but it also puts a tremendous black eye on the conference nationally, where they look at, hey, we go to a 17 thing, it's very watered down, and could the conference really stomach a, let's say, Drexel and Delaware final, for example, or Drexel and Hofstra final that would draw very few fans outside of those two fan bases to the Richmond Coliseum on a championship game on national TV. And that's something that the CAA obviously has to worry about. Certainly with Tom Yeager, he has to worry about. And these are tough decisions. They certainly don't just have one ramification from them.
I've got a bit of a off-the-wall opinion, but I want to get a little bit of clarification first. In the Doug Roberson article on the AJC, he says that the conference bylaws exclude schools that have resigned from being allowed to play. This is a direct quote. GSU and ODU contend that the school can decide when their resignation are effective, allowing the resignation to go into effect June 30th, 2013, would allow them to play in the conference championship tournament games. This basically is talking about everything but football at this point. This affects not only basketball, but women's softball, baseball, all the other postseason sports, correct?
There's no question. It affects every varsity sport, like you said, other than football. And that's the interesting dynamic here, because certainly any fans or any of your listeners have taken a look. Georgia State has yet to release a single schedule in any sport other than football, because everything else is up in the air. Certainly, will there be a case where you have to play certain sports, for example, spring sports or winter sports, or will there be a portion of the schedule that will be in the Sun Belt? Will it all be in the CAA? Will every sport be ineligible? And certainly with ineligibility, I know with men's basketball, certainly Coach Hunter went on the record and said, hey, look, if we're not going to be eligible for the CAA tournament, why are we playing a CAA conference schedule? So there's dynamics there as well. In every sport, obviously, you have non-conference opponents. So you have to wait. The summertime typically is the time where you will sign those contracts and make scheduling arrangements. And that's the other side is some of the fall sports obviously want to know where they're going. They want to know whether they're going to be traveling long distances, being able to schedule hotels, scheduling flights. I know as I'm a frequent traveler, you probably know as well. The closer you get scheduling a flight, the more expensive it gets. That there are budgetary concerns in this. I mean, all of these layers that exist that are still unfortunately not hammered out. And here we are basically getting to be several days after the CAA meeting have occurred, and still no one knows what's going on. It really is a failure, in my opinion, of CAA Commissioner Tom Yeager. And if there was a fate decided, like Doug mentioned, that certainly should have been communicated to ODU and Georgia State, because not only for these two schools, but for the ramifications where we know the CAA is going to have to reload. They're going to have to add teams back to get back to a number which they feel comfortable with. Everyone's watching because all of this is taking place publicly. So if this is how they're going to handle exits, there's certainly ramifications for schools they want to go after in the future to say, look, this is how they're going to handle us just in case we get too big for the CAA.
Let me ask you this. Basketball probably right now is the second biggest sport at Georgia State. I'm old enough to remember when it was the first sport, but I understand we have football now. In the event that Georgia State, let's assume that they don't get invited to the postseason, if Coach Hunter is right, would they compete basically as an independent school playing basketball? And what do you think that effect would have on their chance of maybe making a postseason tournament?
I really don't think an independent is an option, truthfully. If there was a scenario where we are ineligible for the CAA conference tournament, I really see Coach Hunter and his staff taking a look and sitting down and trying to draw up the most competitive non-conference schedule possible. We got a chance to catch up with him on Tuesday, and the interview went live, certainly on PantherTalk.com yesterday, and he mentioned that the certified events that a lot of teams are playing in. He also mentioned that they will be playing in a certified event very similar to what last year's schedule entailed, going out and playing in Seattle, Washington against the University of Washington and Portland and Florida Atlantic. He's looking to play in those kind of preseason tournament style games where, hey, you're going to get 2 or 3, 4 games in a several day stretch to really get your team off to a good start, play a bunch of games against higher quality opponents. But it's a great point. You have to almost balance. I hate to use this word, but you have to manipulate the RPI, because if you're not going to be eligible, you don't want to happen what happened at Drexel, where your strength of schedule prohibits you from being an attractive pick in the NCAA tournament, selection committee meeting. And there are certain ways to do that. You can jump up and schedule much higher competition, guys that have won a ton of games, whether it's historic programs, big programs from ACC, SEC, 10, whatever school conference you can try to pick out to try to go after. But at the same point, we turned over such a great amount of players off our roster last year with 6, and really 4 guys with starting experience. You don't want to necessarily send your young guys and inexperienced guys to the wolves either. So you don't want to go and play a top 25 schedule when you're not confident you have a top 25 caliber team. So there is a balance to that, but I don't think exiting the conference, we would either, in my opinion, would either play a CAA schedule or a Sun Belt schedule as it stands today.
All right, let's kind of because I know right now that the men's basketball team is gathering this weekend. We were going to talk about that a little later, but I kind of want to transition into talk a little bit about the basketball team before I go to the rest about football. Are you saying that in a world where the CAA does not allow us to play the postseason, we would ramp it up the off-season schedule, but still play the conference schedule? Is that what you're saying?
As it looks today, yes. That obviously is subject to change depending on what the conference schedule. I don't know the process personally of, hey, if the CAA made us ineligible, we pick up the phone to Carl Benson at the Sun Belt and say, hey, this is what just happened. Can we go ahead and make this agreement and go ahead and jump in? Or like I mentioned earlier, jump in for a portion of the schedule to say, hey, maybe spring sports, including baseball and softball, are in. There's just so many complicated levels. But as it relates to men's basketball, as it stands today, I think the expectation is likely to play a CAA conference schedule of 18 games and then a non-conference schedule as well.
Okay. I kind of want to remind myself, I sent you an email. I want to talk to you a little bit about Tony Wooten Jr. He played for Washington last year. Just want to ask you a couple of questions about him, but I'll ask you that a little bit later. So let's get back to football real quick. So right now it's up in the air. You think that it's a good thing that nothing's been announced right now? I tend to agree. I can't imagine the CAA hamstringing not only Georgia State but ODU in a way to where financially it makes it more expensive for them to not play in the conference tournament, their regional conference tournament. But I also think it's bad for them because, you know, the CAA normally is a conference, I think with the exception of last year, gets multiple bids to the NCAA tournament. And I would tend to think that they would want that league to be as strong as possible because if they go with the not allowing ODU and Georgia State in, their tournament champion might be in a playing game come next NCAA tournament. Agree or disagree?
No, I don't necessarily know specifically for a play-in game because certainly, like you mentioned, the league is reputation is getting stronger. But there's no question if you go to Richmond with only 7 teams and legitimately probably only 1 or 2 teams that probably could win that tournament, in my opinion, at this point. Just kind of look at the way the landscape goes. I mean, you'd have to favor a George Mason in that scenario, and definitely a Drexel who, you know, ripped off an incredible win streak last year and finished the regular season with 28 wins and then went into the NIT. The biggest issue here, certainly, like you mentioned, I mean, I know a lot of folks focus on the NCAA tournament and obviously PCU going into the second round last year. You know, it's a scenario to me where you could basically, you could eliminate almost all of your postseason chances except for one. And now there's so many tournaments as Georgia State played in the CIT last year, the collegeinsiders.com. There was 5 teams total from the CAA conference who continued to play basketball for the conference tournament was over. So between the NIT, CIT, CBI tournament, so there is opportunity to continue to have the league out there. And that's another thing that Tom Yeagers and the CAA brass have to figure out because obviously there's revenue to be had in that. The more games that your teams play, the more money that kind of rolls up into a pool and it can be split between the members. So, you know, it's certainly, you know, cutting your nose to spite your face is not the smartest idea by the CAA commissioner.
I 100% agree. We're going to get back to basketball, but let's talk a little bit about football. We've got some recruiting news to talk about. An interesting article for all of you ESPN insiders. I can't remember the guy's first name. Let me pull his name up real quick. But it was Fance. He's a top 150 recruit from, I believe, the state of Georgia, who is currently holding an offer from Georgia State. Let's start off with Fance. He's a 4-star recruit, 100 top 50. I'm not sure if I'm expecting Georgia State to pull that one off, but what is your insider telling you about GSU recruiting?
Yeah, that's Rashard Fance, who you're talking about from Our Lady of Mercy High School, actually just not too far away from me, just to the north, down here in Fairburn. Certainly the city of Fairburn and the area has produced tremendous talent with Creekside High School, of course, Eric Berry, who was in the National Football League with Kansas City Chiefs, and but specifically as it relates to Fance, you know, he's a 5'10", about 165, 170 pound athlete, kind of as he's quoted, and the positions out there. Played a little wildcat quarterback, played wide receiver, played defensive back, electric special teams. The kid can flat out fly, and you know he's been timed. I believe one of the combines, some of the Scout.com combines, he ran in the 4.48 range, 4.49 range. Very very fast short shuttle, and yes, has offers, you know, from Florida State and Ole Miss, you know, and we from Georgia State as well, and that's the interesting part about it because. You know, at places like Florida State or Ole Miss, where are they talking to him at? Are they saying, hey, you know what, we want you to play, you know, be an athlete, come in here and take a red shirt and continue to gain strength and maybe play, you know, 2 years down the line? Well, at Georgia State, as it happened certainly with the 2012 class, and we're looking forward, you know, to seeing fall camp open up as well. And some of the freshmen who were recruited in the 2012 signing class, we're going to play immediately. There's opportunities to do it. There's opportunities for their tremendous speed to go ahead and play on special teams immediately and make an impact. And that's certainly the selling point as well for the Georgia State coaching staff with Rashard Fance.
What would they be recruiting him as? Are they recruiting him as a quarterback, cornerback, wide receiver?
It's a great question. And at this point, I don't have a definitive answer on what that is, on what we're recruiting him as. I know... Just depending, a lot of times you want to, you know, they want to say, hey, this is what I want to play. Or some guys don't care. They, you know, just be ESPN or let me play wherever. A lot of times, it really was coming down to recruiting. They want to know that they're going to play early. They don't want to put you in a school, whether it's big or small, and say, hey, I'm going to sit on the bench for 3 years and not get a chance to play. I want to go someplace where I'm going to immediately play and get on the field.
Hello? Ben?
But to make an impact there, there's definitely some talent coming back on the roster in 2013 for Georgia State. The 2012 class was very strong, had strong defensive backs, but that could be a fit there. As there's really no wide receivers that Georgia State loses in 2012, so that may be an immediate option. Or like I mentioned, coming on special teams, playing the punt return, kick return.
Well, ESPN has him ranked as a 4-star athlete. I don't see him in Rivals. It just tells you the difference between some of the recruiting and how they evaluate prospects. Another guy is Jay Woods, defensive tackle from Jackson, Georgia. Any news about him?
Yeah, Jay's a big 6'2", 280-pound plugger, right on the defensive line, and probably a nose guard, defensive tackle type prospect that certainly has the body frame to hit that 310-pound range with college level strength and conditioning. The biggest thing with him is he's got offers everywhere. I mean, every ACC, SEC, Big Ten, Big 12, Big East schools after him. Certainly the 2 locals here, 3 locals in the city of Atlanta and around. University of Georgia after him, Georgia Tech's offered. He's a big kid. I do not anticipate Georgia State having a shot at him just because of the level of offers he's in front of. In my opinion, if we could get him to visit, that would be a huge victory because he is a local guy down from Jackson, Georgia, down at Jackson High School, about middle part of the state. And just to get in front of some recruits there, I think that would be a victory. I don't at this point think that we have a shot at signing.
I may be reading a little bit into this. I understand you saying we don't have a shot at Woods. It seems like you think we have a better shot at Fant than we do at Woods. Am I reading that right?
I would say so. And specifically, Fant's a little bit on the smaller side for a lot of the bigger schools. And just saying, hey, look, you're going to come in, you're 165, 170-pound athlete. Let's slap 5 to 10 pounds on you. Go ahead and redshirt. When we may have an opportunity to say, hey, look, you can come in and be an impact player right away. We want to get you some reps at, in the defensive backfield potentially as a freshman, and I'll go ahead and on special teams. That's again the number one thing when I talk to recruiting analysts nationwide is that when am I going to play? That's the number one thing they want to do. And a lot of people miss that opportunity, whether it's school, whether it's this, whether it's that. There's a lot of people who say, you know what, why did this recruit pick this school? Well, go and take a look and see how early he's playing. Now, obviously, every time that doesn't work out, they get to campus and they may, fall. They may have an injury, they may have trouble adjusting to college life. But that's the number one thing the recruits want. They want to know when they're going to play, when they're going to get on the field, and start the process there.
All right, let's talk about Logan. Austin Logan, safety from Tallahassee, Florida.
Yeah, he's down at Florida State High, down in Tallahassee. Big safety prospect. I think he's going to land at safety on the next level. About 6'1", about 185, 190 pounds in that area. Pretty big hitter, definitely a ball hawk, a guy that you want in your defensive backfield. I think a big key for him as well is, certainly with Duke defensive coordinator Anthony Midget in 2012, switching the defense to a 4-2-5. You obviously have more defensive backs on the field at any given time and really need a deeper rotation of defensive backs. That gives guys opportunities. We lose 2 safeties this off season with the Mario Gunn and the Mayfield Skelton moving on, and both of them are expected starters. So there's definitely again an opportunity to play for Austin Logan. I know the coaching staff has done a great job with him, and I know Coach Midget is a dominant force down in Florida. Certainly evaluating talent early, offering very early, getting in front of guys early. I think Austin Logan is a great prospect and certainly tremendous high upside. It's a pretty good offers. Obviously ACC, Sun Belt, Big East, Big Ten, guys like that. But it all comes down to relationships. And I think Coach Midget has been in front of him very early. And I think Georgia State actually has a great shot at Austin Logan. Interesting.
So that's good news right now. Just two out of three is not bad. Let's see if we can get a fourth one. DJ Just, I believe you said we were recruiting him as a quarterback. What's the news on him, and how do you see him fitting into the program?
Yeah, the guy is down from Fort St. Lucie High School again. Anthony mentioned his contact down there in South Florida has been after DJ for a while. Offered it very, very early. I believe Georgia State was his first offer, and he prefers to play quarterback. Will tell anybody and any college coaches that he wants to play quarterback and doesn't want to be recruited as an athlete. Potentially redshirted down the line. Let's figure out where you're going to land: defensive back, wide receiver, quarterback. And Georgia State approached him and said, "Look, you're going to play quarterback, and we're going to start there, and you're going to have a shot to play." That obviously is an extremely attractive piece for him. Most schools right now are recruiting him as an athlete. Georgia State is not. So being able to do that, we have a great shot at DJ. I am sure he's headed to visit this summer if he hasn't already. And I will make a bold prediction here. I believe that he will be one of our first commitments for 2013 signing class.
I just want to point out that he is a 3-star recruit from Rivals, and we all know how I feel about 3- and 4-star recruits. Makes me feel all happy and bubbly inside. Are there any other recruits? I know I talked to you about a couple other guys, Sean McGee. I believe his name is Donovan Jones. Any other recruits that I'm missing that that are on our radar that we've got a good shot at?
Yeah, at this point, it's really tough to say. There's a lot of guys that certainly have participated in the camps and by the hundreds on Panther.com. If you go to the homepage and actually select the football site, the football drop down for the recruiting board, and basically anybody that has confirmed offers via any of the 3 recruiting sites that we utilize, whether it's Rivals.com, Scout.com, ESPN, Scouts Inc. We put that information out there. If they have interest in us, we have interest in them. We also have our staff come Twitter and social media sites, and people that have offers have visited campus, whether it's offensive line, defensive line. We truly have interest in there about probably 60 or 80 guys. And that's the other thing, too. We have to find out how many scholarships we're going to have with the football program. Will they I could see us taking a class 25, 26, 28 guys this February. If we lose 10 scholarship seniors and they exhaust their eligibility at the end of this 2012 season, then you have the FBS 22 scholarships that could potentially be out there. Just depends on what obviously the coaching staff wants to do with those remaining scholarships. Do you want to use them all? Do you want to take a few and then hold them back? There's guys on the current roster that don't have scholarship. When you move to FBS, everybody's got to be full scholarship, and you have 85. So there's a couple decisions that go into that, and certainly we'll see as the summer goes on, when the evaluation period continues and camps continue to roll with Coach Curry toward the end of this month, to see what offers emerge, what guys are interested in Georgia State. Certainly the coaching staff has put their interest in there, and a lot of different guys regionally around the state, I know South Carolina, North Carolina, Florida, going that way. So then the coaching staff later on will hit the junior colleges as well pretty hard and trying to fill some gaps there as well. So there will be many names bantered about. We'll see where we go.
I would be remiss if I didn't leave the GSU football discussion without talking about, and I'm going to mispronounce his last name, but Christio Billakitty. I cannot.
Yeah.
Was that?
It's okay. It's okay. Christio Billakitty. Yeah, he has had a really good camp with the Raiders so far, and they've been impressed with him. Certainly, as the 305-pound defensive lineman don't exactly grow on trees, and they're huge. He's made an impact certainly out there in Oakland, and was signed, got a 4-year deal in the last week and a half or so, and so the Raiders certainly are making an investment in him. So that's great news for Georgia State fans, and we're looking forward to seeing what Christo's going to do. The Raiders are actually in the Georgia Dome October the 18th.
That's right.
They're playing against the Falcons as well, so chance to have a few more Panther fans rooting on the Raiders at least a little bit, and a Raiders player specifically.
Yeah, absolutely. It's awesome. He's the first player that's ever been drafted. He went to a place where I think he's going to have a chance to play. Like you said, 6'5", 305, 315-pound guys don't grow on trees. He's a big kid, was outstanding when he played here with us. but it's also good for the program as well. When you get players drafted in the NFL, I think Georgia State had as many players drafted as maybe Georgia Tech did. So having guys get drafted into the NFL looks good on the program, especially considering we've only played, what is this, our third season on the field?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest knock. Hey, that was one of the negative recruiting pieces certainly rival coaches use on the recruiting trail. Say, hey, why would you go there? No NFL team's ever going to take a shot at you. Well, you had Christo drafted in the 6th round, and then of course Jake Watsell was picked up as a free agent by the world champion New York Giants. So you have 2 players on NFL rosters already that you can go out on the recruiting trail and say, look, yes, we're brand new. We've only played 22 games ever, and we have 2 guys on NFL rosters right now.
Absolutely. Let's get into basketball because that one is linked to the discussions of the CAA fate. The new recruits are on campus. This is arguably the best recruiting class GSU basketball has ever seen. How do they look? What are you expecting to see over the course of the summer, this upcoming summer?
We had a great talk with Coach Hunter on Tuesday about a variety of different things, certainly with summer workouts. It's a little bit different in 2012 as it has been in past years. It's now they have basically an 8-week span of they can actually work with the guy for an hour a day or several hours a day potentially. You do have to vary it up a little bit as the NCAA allows the coaches actually coach, so they can bring them in. You can have full squad workouts. You can have 2-on-2 work, 3-on-3 work. Different coaches are approaching it differently, but as Coach Hunter mentioned, it is very odd because he actually gets the whistle out and is able to coach guys in the summer rather than just giving them a plan and saying, here, we'll see you in September. Make sure you do your workout, then make sure you get some runs in. Coach Hunter actually and his coaching staff gets to coach these guys, gets to be hands-on, and I think it's great, especially with 5 freshmen on campus, to have a team that's very young, and the 5 freshmen, of course, includes his son, R.J. Hunter, and who was highly recruited out of Pike High School in Indianapolis. He actually graduated high school last Saturday, played in an all-star game, the Indiana-Kentucky all-star game on Sunday, and then enrolled in college on Monday. So he's had a whirlwind of a weekend, and I'm sure he's ready to have a weekend of a little bit of peace and solitude this weekend.
Absolutely. We know about R.J. Hunter. If I'm not mistaken, at Pike High School, he played with, was it T? Is that right?
That's correct. Marcus T graduated a year before, so it was R.J.'s junior year. And Coach Hunter even talked about that this week, saying, he really saw the light bulb go off with R.J. in his senior year. Once Marcus moved on to Kentucky and certainly was a point guard on that national championship team, R.J. basically was the leader on this team. He was the guy that had to take the big shots, and he made the big shots and led his team to a state finals. And certainly up there, I know the state of Georgia has produced tremendous basketball talent, but it is a little bit different. The state of Indiana, basically everybody, as some folks have probably seen the movie Hoosiers, they take every single team, and every single team essentially is eligible for the playoffs, and they whittle them all the way down to a state finals game. Well, his high school and RJ played tremendously in that state final game, comes up a little bit short, but you could just tell that certainly, like to use Coach Hunter's words, the light bulb went off, and he's realizing how good he is, and I definitely believe that he's going to be an impact player for the Georgia State Panthers in 2012-2013.
What a backcourt that had to be. Marcus T and R.J. Hunter. I just don't want to guard that. I don't want no part of that right now. That's incredible.
It seems unfair, doesn't it?
It's a bit unfair, yes. You've got one kid R.J. conceivably, if he produces the way we think he could be a guy that gets drafted in the NBA. T's probably going in the top 20. That's an outstanding backcourt for high school. And when you lose someone like T, this tells you how good RJ is. If you lose a top 20 pick projected in the NBA and you still make it to the state finals, that tells you a lot about how good RJ Hunter is and how good I think he'll be coming into Georgia State next year. Let's talk about a couple other guys. Marcus Critter, he's coming in this year. He, by most accounts, is the highest rated player coming in. What do you expect from him his first year in?
Yeah, Marcus Crider is great. Certainly a great scorer. Right away, definitely an impact guy. He actually worked with Providence out of high school, out of actually the same hometown as Coach Ron Hunter in Ohio, in the Dayton area. kind of developed and grew up, physically matured. Obviously, points of his game. A lot of times, prep schools are you're either there for grades or certainly to improve your stock and your game that way. So a little bit odd that he ended there at a prep school after vertically to Providence, but what Providence lost, Georgia State gained the following year. So he was the last signee and the eighth signee of the 2012 class. So he is definitely an impact guy right away. Certainly a guy who can affect the game offensively and create his own shot, can guard several different positions. He is 6'5", 6'5 and a half, 6'6", in that neighborhood. So he can play shooting guard, he can play small forward, and even guard power forwards in league competition. He's definitely a versatile player, and I think a perfect complement to a guy sort of like an R.J. Hunter, where R.J. is going to want to float on the outside, be able to attack the rim that way, but is a much stronger outside shooter, while Kreider is a better attacker of the basket.
So we've got Kreider, I think Hunter. Those two are probably looking like they're starters. Would I be wrong in saying that?
It's tough. Honestly, a lot of Panther fans forget Manny Atkins, the transfer from Virginia.
Oh, that's right, Atkins.
That's right. Yeah, he sat out all of last year, and I know how tough that was for him. Certainly, he came back home as the Tucker High School graduate. He is a big time talent and a tremendous guy. I would personally slot him there in that small forward slot as a starter, but no question he's going to have competition from Marcus and RJ.
I know we're losing a lot of leadership from last year. Who do you see as some of the guys stepping up to be the leaders this year? I know White has been in the program. This is going into his third year. We've got a couple of guys who hopefully will step up and play the leadership role. But who do you see being the leader on the team going next year? Will it be Atkins, even though he's a transfer coming in?
Yeah, no, I think Atkins. I think Manny is a great choice for that. Certainly, he was around the program last year. Enrolled in spring, had to sit out the entire year, so he's hungry to get back and kind of let people know, look, this is how ACC players do it. Playing in one of the elite conferences in the country, going into the toughest places in the country to play and actually play well. And he came off the bench for Virginia Tech as a sophomore, so definitely take him to be one of those guys. There's no question. Devontae White is the unquestioned leader on this team. He gets in. He's moved in now to his junior season. He played basically every game last year, started all but one, and he's a guy that is your unquestioned leader. He's your point guard. I definitely think we've heard great news from David Travers, the incoming freshman from Carlsbad, California. He's shown tremendous leadership qualities, and I think honestly he could push Devontae a little bit, and which is a good thing. More competition, the better. Certainly, the more depth you can have, the better. Coach Hunter was very outspoken last year about really only playing 8 guys. You can definitely see him going further, going 9, going 10 deep, and really not feeling bad about it. So there's definitely leadership potential on this team, and you can just see the guys that are pushing themselves and getting better and working on their body.
I know right now it's probably not the time for recruiting when it comes to basketball. Has there been any discussion about any recruiting needs for starting? Because recruiting seemingly never stops, but anything about that in terms of basketball right now going on?
Yeah, there's no question. You're right. Recruiting never stops. It's a 24/7 situation, and right now a lot of high school basketball teams are in deep within your camp schedules, your either individual or team camp. I know Georgia State coach Ron Hunter is hosting a team camp this weekend with certainly some of the region's top teams coming in. I know Collins Hills High School. I saw the coach tweeting this morning about they're headed to Georgia State this weekend to compete. Being able to get in front of many of these area high schools, and last season was huge for that. To go out there and say, hey, you know what? In past years we had 7 straight losing seasons. Why in the world would you go down to Georgia State camp and this and that? Well, now Coach Hunter's changed that dynamic totally. So with 22 wins, a postseason tournament berth for the first time in nearly a decade. It's a different style of basketball certainly than what Rod Barnes had in the previous regime. And coaches want to see it. They want to pick his brain. Coach Hunter's been coaching 20 years. He's only had, as far as I know, 1 losing season, and that was his first year moving IUP-wide to full Division I member. So this guy's a winner. Coaches want to be around winners. Players want to be around winning programs.
Absolutely.
They don't want to go to a team where, hey, you know what, I may play a bunch, but we're going to win 5 games and get hammered every game. So they definitely really selective on who you want to bring into the program, and you may only have one or two guys who will be signing with the Panthers come fall or even spring.
Look, my opinion on Georgia State athletics is looking up. You've got a 22-win basketball team that's only going to get better over the next few years with Coach Hunter. You've got a football team that's going to the Sun Belt, getting in big-time recruits. They're going to advance. You've got other varsity programs that are making big news. We had a tennis player, I think, make it to the third round of the NCAA tournament. We had the softball team absolutely blasting Alabama softball team, who I think won the national championship, if I'm not mistaken. Georgia State athletics is really, really, really looking up, and a lot of stuff you said is very, very promising. And this is good news for us GSU fans out there for what they're doing. Two quick things before I let you go. I don't want to end on talk about a bit of a downer, but another discipline issue on the football team. Thompson got dismissed for violating team rules. What's kind of going on here? You think with some of these? This is just normal? This is what football is. Sometimes you got a few guys that act up a little bit and they've got to get kicked off the team, or is this a bigger problem? You think?
No, I think it is. I got asked that question last week, and if you look at 4 off seasons, so the potential of I don't know 350 to 400 players at this point, as far as it stands today, Coach Curry and the staff has only removed 6 scholarship players. The trouble is those 6 scholarship players are certainly at perceived need positions. You have quarterback in Bo Schlechter, who was removed in the spring. You have your leading tackler for basically consecutive years. I mean, Fred Barnes was asked off the team in the middle of last year. Linebacker Dexter Moody was involved in that incident with Bo.
Yep.
I think specifically with Thompson, there was a violation of team rules there, and I know he'd been suspended in the spring as well. I think the biggest thing what Coach Curry is looking at is, look, here's our rules, and you guys have to abide by them. It's honestly the nature of the beach dealing with 18, 19, 20-year-old kids when they get to college. I know, and that's the difficult part about it. Certainly the coaching staff doesn't want to kick anybody off because of the negative connotations to that.
Right.
But at the same point, guys that violate rules and want to push the limits a little bit, and they're going to be a part as well. Their friends are having fun in the summertime, and they have curfews and they have check-ins, and they're getting up at 5 a.m. to work out, and they have certain things that they're expected to do that are above and beyond a normal student. So it is a difficult scenario. It's also greatly rewarding for college athletics, but in the summertime, when you don't have that parent out there playing games, it makes it very, very difficult, and guys unfortunately slip up.
Okay. Don't want to dwell on that one too much because I know you got to run, but I want to ask you. I know you follow the basketball team very, very well. Last year, Georgia State played University of Washington. The NBA draft's coming up. Tony Wooten Jr. was the point guard for Washington and is being looked at probably by a lot of the mock drafts that the Hawks could select him in the first round. Any insight on or anything you remember about Tony Wooten when you saw him that makes you think that he's going to excel at the next level or will cause you some pause?
No, I think he has a chance to be successful, and I've seen some of those same draft projections probably you've seen and seen a late first round pick. I think that actually would do him very well. And I know every player in the NBA expects to be drafted very high and certainly wants to go to that. But a lot of times too is if you're drafted in the top 10, top 12 picks, you're going to a team that has a losing record that will rely on you to play right away. Later in the first round, you're looking at playoff teams. You're looking at established teams. You're looking at teams that you're not going to have to go in and shout right away. And Tony, certainly was a highly touted freshman coming into Washington. I think, it would be arguable if you talk to Washington Husky fans whether he met or exceeded expectations, but certainly was a very good player out there. You could just see the ability, certainly scoring the basketball, certainly handling the basketball. He's not going to embarrass himself there, 6'5", almost 6'6". He does have to get stronger, physically, but I definitely see him, playing a role where he can be a very good scoring guard in the NBA, has great size, can do that, could potentially, certainly for Hawks fans, could potentially be a guy that could develop into a Jamal Crawford type player with an increased outside shot. Obviously, Jamal Crawford's a great player and played, more than a decade in the NBA. So, but that's kind of how I see him, developing into. I mean, he's only 19 years of age, so it's a scenario where he's going to get much better in the next coming years. I think later in the first round will be a great opportunity. Certainly as a long-suffering Hawks fan, I'd love to see him here and being an option right off the bench as the Hawks only have 6 players under contract moving into the off season.
Yeah, we could spend hours talking about the Hawks. I am a dejected former Hawks fan, current Miami Heat fan, but that's a long story. I do like Wooten. I like the fact that a lot of stuff they said about him, they said about Rondo coming out. And listen, if we get the next Rondo, I'm excited. If we get 90% of Rondo, I'm still excited. I like the comparison you made with Jamal Crawford. I think his shot can be fixed, but 6'6", 6'5" guys that can get to the rim with that kind of speed, athleticism, like you said, don't grow on trees. He would be fantastic, along with Fat Melo, who came out of Syracuse. Ben Moore, the guy knows his stuff. He knows his sports, and it's not just about GSU. On behalf of Missed on Points, man, we thank you.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
No problem. Have a good day. That was Ben Moore, GSU athletic guru, athletic sports guy. We will break this down on the next podcast. See you later.